Hello and welcome back to the Will I Vike It podcast. I'm your host, Craig Brooks, and today my guest is Jonas Lorentzen from
Hey everybody.
Nebala. And I think you've done some music on the film Northman. And some people might recognize you as regular guest from Nordic Mythology podcast. Give them a shout out.
Definitely. Yeah, I do the story time there and talk about Vikings and shit.
So yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here.
It's a long time in the making for both of us. I know we started talking back in July about this, didn't we? So
we did, yeah.
Yeah. So it's taken a while.
And I really wanted to do the Midgard's Blood thing. I really wanted to, but it just became too crazy.
I found that at other events as well. Like trying to record at a festival is a nightmare. It never works.
It's great when it happens. I think it's probably when you do actually, and the sort of schedules just magically align or whatever. Then I think it can be quite great. But yeah, it's difficult. People are running around and tons of things going on.
It's a busy festival, that one.
Indeed.
A lot going on. Yeah. So yeah. So you're here mainly. We're going to be discussing your mead, which people that are watching might see I've got sat next to me. And I am eager to try it, but I thought maybe we'd start by talking a bit about who you are and your background in case anyone's not come across you before.
Sure. I suppose in terms of this whole Viking thing, I suppose that some people also might know me from when I was playing with Heilung for a couple of years. I was singing with Heilung since we started in 2017, and I was with them for about 2 years, and then I switched and I did the Northman and started Nebala and so on.
So is that where your music, sort of professional music career started? Was that Heilung or?
You could say that. I mean, it depends on what you mean by professional, right? I mean, because does professional mean proficient, or does it mean that you literally live off what you're doing? I suppose it.
Yeah, I mean that's how I would see it, is earning a living off of it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say that. I would say that with Heilung, that's when I started really focusing on music again. It's actually an interesting story because I was always a musician ever since I can remember, really. I've been a musician, so it's one of those things where I didn't really. It was never a thought of mine that, like a conscious thought of, okay, that looks interesting, I would like to do that, like how some people get into stuff. It was more like it was just always with me ever since I was a kid. All my family is musical, and at all kind of family gatherings and so on, people would be singing and playing and many voices and stuff. We would have like little impromptu family choirs and so on at family dinners and stuff like that. So it was just always with me. Then when I became a dad, I realized that I became a dad fairly early, and I realized that I needed to do something quite quickly that would make me some money. Music is struggling business, and that's when I thought, okay, but I have this other passion, food, because that was always with me ever since I was, I think, a teenager or something like that. I started being interested in food and started cooking a little bit for myself, but never thought I would make it a career as such.
Yeah.
But then when my daughter was born, I thought, okay, I better try to do some things, and then it just kind of like I just started I kind of faked myself to a head chef position in a way by sort of embellishing some work experience and so on, and sort of just jumped straight into a head chef position at a tourist restaurant.
It's fake it till you make it, as they say.
Absolutely, I almost live by that mantra. But yeah. So then I got really excited about it, and I did it quite intensely for a few years. I took a little break from it again because chefing business is grueling. It's extremely grueling, and the hours are crazy. I thought, okay, I took this job to have it so I could be with my child, but now I'm never with my child, so
Yeah.
or so that I could provide for my
Yeah.
child, but now I can't be with her, so what's the point, So then I just
Sure.
did some odd bits and bobs and jobs, and then when we moved to the UK in 2016, I started the university, a master's, together with my wife Nena at the time. And then we thought, well, we had to make some more money, and we were like, oh well, I mean, I was dabbling a lot in Nordic cooking at that time, the new Nordic food business and so on, and I was always been interested in mythology and so on. So we kind of made a hybrid, and that's when we created the company Matter, which ran supper clubs and immersive experiences with food, and going out and foraging with people, coming back and then cooking with what they had foraged, and like luxurious experiences. These were high end experiences for people. Let me see if right here. But then the next year I joined Heilung, and then my whole it was kind of like a knock in the head. I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is actually who I am. This is actually what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do music, And then I kind of had like quite a long time where it was like a 50-50. So I would do 50% food would be my career, and another 50% would be.
Because I think you got quite far with the food too, didn't you? Did I not see you were on like £1 million menu? And
we were, yes, we were. Yeah. We were on the £1 million menu. In what was this? Was that in? I want to say 19. I want to say it was 19 with Fred Syriax and all that. Yeah, exactly. Which was a lot of fun, and we were really praised in that episode. Actually, it was quite awesome. We didn't win, which I am actually really happy about, because we asked for £900,000 to do our flagship restaurant.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had gotten that £900,000 and then COVID hit right after.
Yeah.
We would have been sitting with £900,000 of someone else's money that we had no way of paying back, or it would have been grueling. A lot of people were in some really difficult situations, right? Because of
so it probably worked out best for you then, really. That kind of
I just want to see it that way, at least, It makes me feel better about it. So it was really great, and we got to do a lot of fun things with that, and I loved it, and I loved diving into the ancient cooking techniques and thinking like in terms of the creative process, like if I'm to make a fancy dessert, but I'm thinking I'm a Viking age girl going through a forest on a early summer's day. What do I find? I'll maybe find this, and I'll maybe find that, whatever isn't in season at that particular time, right? I'll find this and this and this, and then combine it. I made a dessert like that at one point, which was just that kind of thinking, that kind of process. It doesn't mean that dish couldn't have come about in some other kind of way, just by thinking of what tastes good together or whatever. But to think about it in that way was quite inspiring.
An interesting approach, kind of getting into character, I guess. And then
yes,
yeah,
in a way you could say that, of course. And then, of course, the dessert I made. No Viking woman ever tasted anything like that, I'm sure. But but the idea was there, that it was the idea, the concept behind it. I would do dishes such as, like, I would do Nordic cosmology, for instance, the creation myth of Nordic mythology. So the idea there was to have something hot and something cold, and then I created the palate cleanser for that dish. So the palate cleanser, as far as I remember, was a bit of quince liquor, a bit of what do you call it? Like a kefir water, like a fermented water,
Yeah.
and I think it was topped up with something else which I can't remember, but it was 3 elements, and they were put together in such a way, especially the quins really helped there, because when you took a bite of it, there was just to quickly say, it was a kind of a marinated piece of pork which was marinated with sour beer, and then a chervil root ice cream, which I had then made. And then so you combined the ice cream, because it was a savory ice cream, of course. So the savory ice cream with I say savory, but I don't know if it's exactly savory, because when you bake the chervil root for a long time, it actually becomes caramelized, right? So but there was only the sugar from the chervil root, no added sugar whatsoever. So you mix those two things together, and that was like an explosion of flavor. And then you had that palate cleanser to sort of clean your palate, and then you could have another explosion. So that whole idea of that cyclical creation, right? And the hot and the cold. So it's just that way of thinking, that way of creating parameters for creativity it's extremely interesting. So but I just went on a total tangent. You were asking me to let people know a bit about myself, but I suppose it's unfolding.
Yeah, that's fine. So I mean, I guess so you kind of said already. So you moved from that kind of at the same time as being in Highland. So you did a bit of both.
Yes.
For a little while.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to fully give up being a chef? And
there wasn't like a moment. It kind of just fizzled out. I would say up until quite recently, I was still doing things. Like I think right after Midgardsblod, I was doing some stuff up in the Nordic mountains. Not Midgardsblod this year, but the year before.
Yeah. Because you did Fire in the Mountains too, didn't you? You did some food for them.
Yes, that was also last year.
Yeah.
we did a farm to festival barbecue, which was awesome. Again, we did the same thing with being inspired by a Nordic myth. So the whole idea was that Ivar Björnsson from Enslaved, the Nordic the Norwegian black metal band, he had curated part of the festival, meaning he had sort of come with a vision for some part of the festival, and he called it On Wings Over Utgard. And then I thought of Wings Over Utgard, and then I thought, okay, what stories do we have that includes Wings Over Utgard? Well, there's the story of Thiassi, which is the story of do you know the story of Thiassi?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell it anyway for the listeners and viewers.
I kind of I know it, but I couldn't retell it off the top of my head. But
it would be a very abbreviated version here. I heard Matthias tell the whole story. Actually, when we did the barbecue, Matthias came and did some storytelling, which was kind of cool. But it's really long. It's extremely long. But the whole point of it is that it's 3 gods. It's Odin, it's Thor, and I think it's Hörnir or something. One of the lesser known gods. And they go out on a quest, and they go out into Utgard, or they go into some kind of unknown, right?
Mm.
And that was the whole point of the Wings Over Utgard, was like travel into the unknown and that sort of thing. That was the whole idea of the curation. So they go out on some kind of quest or some kind of trip or whatever. They get hungry. They see a steer standing on a meadow. They kill the steer, and they want to cook it in an earth oven. But so for those who don't know what an earth oven is, basically when you dig a hole, put hot stones in, put the meat on top, cover it with something, and then cover it with dirt, so that it's like basically cooking like for a long time, and they're slow cooking. But they can't. Every time they dig up the steer, it's not cooked. It looks like it's just been put in there, and they don't understand why. And they find out at some point that this looks like magic. There's someone cursing their thing. And Thiassi's sitting up in a tree, and he's in the form of an eagle, and he's probably a Jotun of some sort of giant. And he then says, well, something about like, I'll let you cook it, but I'll have to have the first bite or something. And then they cook it, and then I think he eats the whole thing. And there's a whole thing, and I can't remember the exact story, but he wants Idun. No, that's the whole point. He wants Idun, and Loki makes a deal with him. He says, "Okay, fine, I'll give you Idun." And then, of course, they eat the steer, but then Loki doesn't want to give him Idun, and then there's a whole fight and blah blah blah. And Loki has to turn her into a nut and fly away with her and stuff like that in order to get her away from Thiassi. And there's this whole thing.
It's the same story that leads to them dressing Thor up in a wedding dress, isn't it?
Yes.
And then he pretends...
No, wait, hang on.
Is that a different one?
No, that's the one with his hammer. That's a different one.
Okay. I'm mixing up my mythology.
Yeah. But there's also so many similarities between them. But the point is, there's something about them flying into Valhalla, and it leads to the whole story with Skadi, I think, because Skadi is Thiassi's daughter.
Yes.
And then
she ends up marrying. She has to pick a husband based on their feet.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
First they have to get her to laugh, and that's when Loki
ties
a string to his balls and kicks a goat, and he has to run around after the goat, and his balls fall off and stuff like that. Very funny. But anyway, so what's the relevance of this whole story? Why am I talking about it? Well, because again, here we have a story from Nordic mythology that has 3 elements of food: apples, nuts, and steer and beef, basically. So we base the whole barbecue on apples, nuts, and beef, basically.
Nice.
And so those salads with apples and nuts and stuff like that. And then, of course, we had a big old offset Texan smoker and smoked a lot of brisket and that kind of stuff. It's delicious. Which of course was marinated in apple cider vinegar and honey and that kind of thing, So again, keeping the whole story incorporated into the food. So again, I really love doing things like that. I find it really exciting.
Yeah. So from there, you sort of, because we're kind of jumping about a bit, but so that's as you start to sort of phase out the cooking a little bit and move more into doing music. Yes. So at what point? I mean, when you... Sorry, go on.
No. You finish your question.
I was just going to say, at what point was it during Heilung that you kind of came up with a concept for what became Nebala?
Yeah, that happened, I think, in 2019. I mean, it actually happened before that. I think Nebala was a project or an idea in my mind that was brewing for quite a long time. But I think the real strong urge to make it, there was some events that happened in early 2019 that kind of really pushed me to like, okay, now I got to do it, really. And so I left Heilung at the end of that year. So yeah, round about that time, I would say. And it was also, I mean, I really left Heilung because I knew I wanted to undertake a big project with Nebala. I wanted to really invest my energy into it, and I just didn't feel it was fair, or to myself and to anyone else actually, that I wouldn't be able to give Heilung what it deserves in some sense, which is, attention and time and passion and all that kind of stuff. I kind of lost that. So yeah. Around about that time, yeah.
Was there anything you took from your time in Heilung that's kind of influenced your sound or the way you perform in Nebala? I guess you're always kind of building on experience, aren't you? So it's...
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been asked... I've been asked this question before, and I would say that you don't enter something like Heilung without taking a piece and leaving a piece,
Yeah.
So for sure. And I remember the first time Christopher played Heilung for me. This was I think before it had even been released. He played some of Alfa de Heitir for me. I remember that particularly very vividly, because I kind of felt that it was a kind of I got really excited about it because I have been into spiritual music for a long time, and I heard throat singing for the first time in my life when I was I don't know, 23, 24, something, traveling in India, and traveling to Dharamshala, and hearing the Tibetan monks sit and do their throat singing chants and so on. So when I heard Heilung, it was a kind of a strange memory of stuff that I had experienced in India and so on. But it was also this Nordic thing with all this Odin stuff, and I just got really excited about that marriage in some sense. And I know that wasn't necessarily, I think, what Kai or Christopher and so on had in mind, but that was how it sort of spoke to me. And I think also that is one way that it really did kind of propel me, or like give me like this idea, okay, I can actually take all this stuff that I've traveled around and I've seen, and I've heard, and I can marry that with what I come with from my culture and my upbringing and what I bring with me in my rucksack, you know. So with Nebala, I think I've focused even more on that connection, that broad Indo-European connection from India all the way to, actually from the Gobi Desert, but that's technical. But yeah, from India all the way to the Nordics, right? That showing that interconnection musically. Was a project that I found extremely interesting to embark on. So Nebala does have a lot of that, and people have said that a lot, that it has a lot of Eastern feel to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Which totally makes sense, because that's what I bring with me. So that's how things come out, you know, obviously.
Yeah, and it's kind of an approach that I don't think anyone else has ever done before. Like, you get this very, if you like, Norse or Nordic sound, Viking music, as it often gets called.
Yeah.
And so
much
when
to our
Nebala
chagrin. Yeah,
but
sorry,
I found like when Nebala came along, it was kind of refreshing. I mean, I'd only heard a couple of tracks when the pre-orders came out, and I knew I had to get it.
Oh wow!
I pre-ordered it by Norse, and I don't do that very often. Especially if I don't know an artist, it's a little bit of a gamble, isn't it? It's not necessarily a cheap investment, but I just knew. No. And then when Shell got involved as well, it was like, well, yeah, okay, this is going to be something special.
I knew it was a good idea to bring Shell along. Yeah. No, I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah, man, absolutely. Really happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's on repeat a lot in our house. We do listen to it an awful lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Half the time, I've no idea what's going on lyrically, but it's just the music and the sound and the feel. I know what the vibe of the album is, but
that is one thing that I've been going back and forth about the whole time, and I didn't even know when we were about to release it. I'm still not sure really, because I mean, should I translate those lyrics so that people know what they're about? The reason why I'm not so sure I should, and let the so what I have done is that actually, if you go on to, I think it's all the live songs that are there. If you go there, there will actually be translations in there, and I also did some posts where I did some references to Afonmel, to where it's been taken, where has this been taken from? Because what we did was that we didn't just sing the Old Norse, we translated it back into an even older language, or I say we. That's not entirely correct. Matthias Nordvig translated the Old Norse back into. I didn't do that. I wouldn't know how to do that. Matthias Nordvig did. Of course, Matthias and I we found the material together and so on. But yeah, so we translated it into an even older language, so you wouldn't even be able to go in and just see the lyric and then figure out where it's from, because you can't Google that or anything like that. It's not Googleable. But But yeah, I did references to where the texts were from, so that those who were really hardcore nerds, they could go and find it on their own. And the reason why I didn't want to really put it like, okay, this is what the song is and this is the translation and so on, was because I really wanted people to focus on what they heard. I mean, one of the great things about listening to music that you don't actually understand the lyric from, like I do that a lot. I listen to a lot of world music and music from all over the place, is that you kind of bypass your own biases. You know, when I hear a sentence set in English, I'll have a lot of preconceived notions about what that means because I've heard those words before. I've heard that sentence before or whatever. So I have a more clear idea of what the person is trying to say, or at least, or maybe I have the illusion of thinking that I know that. But when you listen to a language that you don't know, you bypass that and go straight to the feeling. You bypass all the intellectual blah 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 that's going on, and you go straight to the feeling, and you listen straight to the one who sings.
Yeah.
And I think that is a strength, and that is actually why I've been going back and forth all the time about, like, should I translate, should I not? I don't know, but I don't know if that makes sense to you in any way.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I had for a second thought that maybe you'd put them inside the liner notes, but I think that's just there's just some. They're not the lyrics, are they? I think there's a little. I mean, I've actually got it here.
I think the only thing that's there. Oh God, I haven't looked at it so long. I think the only thing is there is some words about the song.
Yeah, I think it has a rough, maybe explanation rather than the actual.
Yeah, it's more like a poetic alluding to what the song is about more than a
that's
direct
it's not
explanation.
It does give you a rough idea of what's going on, like you say.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a kind of, it doesn't say this song is song dedicated to this and this and this. You know, it's not like that. It's more like when Odin went to the mountain, he saw the blah 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 blah. You know, it's more like a poetic rendition of what the song's about in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you say, I wonder if it even matters. I mean, I still enjoy listening to the album, so I don't think whether an understanding of the lyrics would make any difference. It doesn't stop my enjoyment. So
no, it might now that you have gotten into it, you might want to go and, I don't know, it could also ruin your experience, right? I mean, it's like with poetry, right? Like Bob Dylan, I remember, I think, said something about that. He didn't want to explain his songs, what they were about, because then people's own experience of hearing that song and kind of like, what does it say to them and all that is taken away, because someone can say, no, but Bob Dylan said this was actually about his grandma, so your feeling there is now invalid.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah,
doesn't it?
But then that's different because you know what he's saying, whereas with Nebala you don't have any idea whatsoever.
Yeah, but do you really know what Bob Dylan is saying?
Does anybody? Does he?
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. What the fuck is that song about? Tambourine. I'm ready to get anywhere. I'm ready to fly. I don't know.
When do you start the Bob Dylan tribute act then? Was that?
We'll do like a Viking Dylan kind of thing. I don't know. When I'm older. When I'm 60, when I'm 64. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but anyways, I think there's a point to it. I think I think it's good just to leave it as it is. And yeah.
So did you originally have plans to have it as a piece that you could perform live, as you've done a few times, or was it meant to be just a recording process?
I always wanted to play with it live. I won't say that I knew exactly how to do that, or like, I mean, Shell and I when we finished the album together, we thought a lot about how are we actually going to play this live, and we had all kinds of ideas. And we actually, in the beginning, we had the idea that we would do it just a few people, and that we would do different versions of the song live, so that, and this is, again, gets very technical, but a lot of this kind of music, because it is so big, because it's so filled with so many voices and instruments and drums and all that kind of stuff, what you have to do is that you have to have a lot of backing track. So you have to have a lot of things in the plays that you then play on top of. It's not playback, because everyone sings. And like, for instance, when I was with Heilung, of course we had a lot of backing track, but of course everything is also played. It's not like it's not live. But what it does do is it restricts you a lot. It restricts you to like, this song is 7 minutes, and it's 7 minutes. It's not, you can't like at the end of it go, let's a little longer, and this is grooving, this is awesome, let's go for a little longer, people love it, so let's not, you don't get to be as much in the moment, at least musically, when you have these backing tracks. So when we came out, we had a lot of backing tracks. We did the same kind of thing that Heilung and Badruna did, and this year we kind of felt like we wanted to go back to the original playing it live, which is to be more loose, be more free with the songs, so that we can play the songs that are on the album, but we can take them in different directions. We can play different versions of them, and so on and so forth. And that's something I'm really excited about. So when we do the next album, it's also we're going to be thinking a little bit more like that we make it to live, in the sense where the first album was kind of just like, it was Corona time. It was very much, you were just thinking about making the music. You weren't thinking about there was ever going to be a time where you could play this live, actually. Right?
Yeah,
so you weren't, that wasn't really in the back, but now we're thinking more about that, actually. Yeah. But definitely, like, we want to play this live as much as possible. This has to be experienced live.
It definitely does. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen it, you can see the Midgard block performance on YouTube. Not quite the same, but you get a bit of a feel for what it's like live. You can probably see the back of my head if you look close enough. And
are you up there in the front?
I'm up the front somewhere, front left.
So a shining baldy head somewhere.
That's it.
And it's
and
Craig.
Do you know what? I didn't know it was being recorded. I don't know how I completely missed that until it came out, and I was like, "Oh right."
They were pretty good at staying out of the way, actually.
Yeah, I had no idea.
They did a good job of that, actually, which was awesome. Yeah. No. Yeah, you can definitely go on YouTube and check that out. We were proud of those live videos, but of course you can never capture what it really is live. Even with the Lifa Heilung videos, which were an even more expensive production, it's not gonna. It's two different things. You have to see it as two different things, really, in some sense, when you watch a live show on YouTube and when you go for live. But it can give you a little appetizer, a little, like you said.
Yeah, because the tracks are a little bit different to listening to the album, aren't they? There's a different, I suppose, feel to them. The vocals are slightly different. So it does give you a rough idea of how you kind of translate that to a live performance.
Yeah, absolutely. We did change the tracks a little bit before we went live with them, but still we had that. We still did have that back then when that was filmed. We still did have like that. Like, this song is 5 minutes. This song is 6 minutes, because the backing track dictates how long the song is, right? So I don't know if that makes sense at all to someone who's not a musician. Does it?
Yeah, no, I get where you're going. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I guess I had another question, which I guess to tie it in with that idea that you're not playing to a backing track, but that you've got that limit. That must put a little bit of pressure on. So whereas from an audience perspective, people get into kind of the ritualness of it. Some of the tracks are almost sort of trance-inducing, I guess you could say. But do you get that same feeling when you're on stage? If you've got that kind of 5 minute times, I guess you're just too in the zone of performing to that time limit.
I mean, so the question is, do you get into a trance-like state?
Yeah. So do you find
as
it
a
as
musician?
much of a ritual being on stage as someone would that's in the audience? Or are you too far removed from that?
Oh, that is actually a really, really good question. Because the audience experience obviously is different from the performer's experience. I mean, how could it not be? It's two different vantage points in order to take part. I mean, so let's say I like to look at it as the audience and the performer. It is one. You know, it is one. They are both there to create that experience. You can't have the experience one without the other, right? Like, that's impossible. So first, that is the first acknowledgement one does. But of course, the experience itself has to be different from the audience to the you know, because an audience member can drop 5 grams of mushrooms and just you know, like, go crazy. But we can't do that, or at least we shouldn't.
we shouldn't. We
shouldn't. You know, because you would sound like shit. You know,
it would make performing difficult, I would imagine.
Oh God, I don't understand how they did it back in the 70s and 60s, like how they were just doing acid and fucking jamming for hours.
No idea.
I don't know. I don't know how they did it, but you know. The point is that it's so we know you don't get to that full trance experience, but you are extremely present, and I think that presence, that awareness that you have to have when you're playing live, right? And you have to be extremely present and aware and in the moment, because the moment you're not in the moment, if you start second guessing yourself when you're standing up there, so everything's gonna crack, right? It's not gonna sound good, and you won't have a good experience. The audience won't have a good experience. So in some sense, you are in some kind of floaty in between state. It's a kind of a meditative thing, but it's also kind of trancey, and you know, so trance and ecstasy is, I would say, is classified different from meditation, in that when you're in a trance or in a state of ecstasy, you're not necessarily aware in the same way that you are when you're meditating. Because when you're meditating, you're in this calm and you're just letting the thoughts go by and so on. And so therefore I would say, when you're a performer, you're more in a meditative state, and the audience can also be in a meditative state, but is allowed to trance out entirely, if that makes sense. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
So you kind of alluded earlier to some of the, I suppose, the lyrics, if you like, are based around mythology, but do you get inspiration from other places? So to like nature and other things? I know, like, for instance, Ina Selvik often goes out somewhere into the mountains or whatever and experiences nature and then puts that into the music. Is that something that you've ever done, or?
I wonder how to answer this question, because I go into nature a lot, and I love going into nature. I love perfect days in nature where nobody wants to be there, you know, because you can just be completely yourself with the trees. So I like windy days as well, when people don't really want to be so much out, and then you can go out.
I'm not a fan of the wind.
No, let's not call. Yeah. Well, well, the point is just that you know, I love being in nature, and I think Einar is absolutely right when he says that a lot of people think that they don't have time to go into nature because they have such busy lives and they have so much things they want to do. But in fact, going into nature makes you actually more efficient with your time, because you just get that calm. It's a straight delivery system out there, right? If you sit down and try to meditate, and you can sit down in a room, it can take a long time. Going out into nature can bring you there quite quickly. And that is not to shit on meditation, because that's a completely different practice, you know, completely different modus operandi, but to get there. But yeah, so I'm very inspired by nature in that sense. I can be inspired by the experiences I can have in nature, the way that sometimes nature can, calm your thoughts, and new thoughts would come in that you haven't thought about before, or new ways of looking at the same thing, or you could get some kind of profound feeling of love or interconnectedness and so on. And that, I think, on a base level inspires me. But I wouldn't say I've gone out into nature and then all of a sudden, I looked at the birch and all of a sudden the birch told me to sing a song or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not really how I operate. I operate a little bit differently than that. But yeah, nature is extremely important to me, and yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing to have to sit and say. What have we come to in this world where I have to sit and say that nature is important to me? It's like, what? It's what we are, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it's retarded, isn't it? But,
yeah, it should be natural. It's nature. It's natural.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So most of your music, lyric wise, is inspired by sort of Norse mythology.
Yes. In this case, okay. So I think I suppose I have to explain it by going a little bit backwards. So I wanted to create an album about sacred sexuality. It was kind of rooted in the idea of the interplay between the male and female energies, how that is mirrored in nature and basically mirrored in everything, that kind of interplay. And when I did the research for this, I started researching together with Mathias Nordvik, who I'm sure a lot of your listeners will know who is. But if they don't know who he is, he was one of the guys who did the Nordic mythology podcast, and he is a professor of Nordic mythology and basically, all those kind of things from Colorado in Boulder. And I heard the podcast, and then I contacted him and asked him whether he wanted to help me with the research for this project. And we looked a lot at comparative religions as well. So it was basically about finding textual material and other kind of material, and goddess names and all that kind of stuff that would refer to the subject. Because I kind of asked him, so I said, like, I'm really inspired by Indian mythology and so on, and I said, well, so how much do we actually have from Nordic mythology that talks about these things? And he was like, oh my God, they don't talk about anything else almost. So like it was really nice. So it was so I wanted to kind of I wanted to express my own, and I say my own spiritual ideas. I wouldn't say it's wrong to say my own spiritual ideas, because of course they're not mine. They belong to the world. But those that which I was inspired by philosophically, spiritually, and so on. And I wanted to seep it in the Nordic language. I wanted to represent that on the first album of Nebala had to be Nordic in that sense. I kind of important.
Yeah.
The next album of Nebala will also have Nordic elements, but will go in all kinds of other directions as well. Again, always bringing it back to the interconnectedness. That's extremely important. And everything I do will always kind of be Nordic, because that's what I am. But I think we will be a little bit more daring, even on
I think you've frozen a second there.
Yeah, it said for a second.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lost
good.
the tail end of the last sentence.
What? What was what was I saying?
So about how you were going along the lines of how you are Nordic yourself.
Oh yeah. So that's of course,
yeah.
That's how it comes out, of course.
So would you? Because I think you've said already, like you considered Indian mythology maybe as well. So you're saying that maybe in future you might branch out to other.
Sure. Yeah, that was what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Second album's definitely gonna have more of like both Indian, but also I don't want to say too much. I shouldn't say.
No, it's all
but
right.
yeah, there's gonna be some interesting things, and there's gonna be some connections. What I can say is that I'm gonna try to draw some connections between Nordic mythological thinking or spiritual thinking to some other places where I think people will be quite shocked at what I'm drawing to. But that is the point as well, because again, I think people have, and I think myself also, been laboring under a lot of misapprehensions about other religions, I would say, or other modes of thought coming from other places in the world, especially those of monotheism. Monotheism is, nobody likes monotheism anymore, right? Like it's like, oh, but and for good reasons, for really good reasons. But there's some very, very interesting things when you dig deep into monotheism, even, that you can get inspired by.
Do you worry about people's reaction at any point? So if you start to pick from other cultures, do you feel like, I'm going to use the kind of trigger words of the time, is culturally appropriating, say, Indian culture or any other?
I should be, shouldn't I? Should.
I don't know. Should you be? That's the question, I guess. It's
I mean, I am a white cis whatever, male. So I mean, I suppose I'm one of those guys that really could get burned from doing things like that. But I just don't really fucking care, to be honest. I really have to not fucking give a fuck, because I think the fact that we let ourselves be bullied by these kind of ideas is if we keep letting ourselves be bullied by these kind of ideas of cultural appropriation and so on, then it's gonna keep going like this. It's gonna, and the logical conclusion of stopping everyone from sharing each other's cultures is that we go Hitler. That's the logical conclusion of everything. That's exactly what he believed. That's exactly what extremely nationalistic people believe. They exactly believe we shouldn't mix cultures. Now, that being said, there is this respectful way of doing that.
Yeah.
There is you have to have reverence. Like, you have to have reverence to the material that you dive into. If I'm going to go and find let's say, text from the Nag Hammadi, in Egypt, I have to pay reverence to that. I have to know what I'm talking about. I have to dive into it. I have to, immerse myself into it as much as I can. So I wouldn't pick, like, I wouldn't just pick some kind of thing from a Nordic, from a Northern American Lakota tribe or something like that, because I don't have any real connection to that. I don't. It would be a power grab if I did that. It would be like, oh, that's pretty cool right now, so I'm just gonna take this thing from that Lakota thing because it likes right now. It would be a thing like that. It would be extremely disrespectful. So if I feel I have a connection to this, if I feel I have an understanding for this material, whatever it may be, then I will use it, and then I will use it in a respectful way, but also in a way that shows its interconnection to other things, and so on and so forth, with a positive message, and also with showing that culture isn't a monolith. It is a thing that's constantly in flux. Constantly in flux. And I actually think the term cultural appropriation is wrong. I think we should talk about cultural exploitation, or denotation or something like that, rather than talking about appropriation, because culture is appropriation by definition. You wouldn't have culture if people didn't appropriate each other's shit. It would just be like something written in a book somewhere and put in a dusty tome and put on the shelf. That's not what culture is. Culture is alive, and it has to be.
Yeah. So it kind of needs relabeling and
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think we just need to keep doing what we want to do. As long as we feel that we ourselves are being authentic and in our own integrity when we do stuff like that, then I think everything will be fine, to be honest.
So when we were talking about Nebala before, just to bring it back on track again, you were talking about the masculine and feminine.
Yes.
And I think that would be a good point to talk about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Your mead.
Indeed.
Which unfortunately you don't have.
Bloody Brexit. Bloody post-Brexit.
But lucky for me,
you have it. You're in England. So, yeah. It is produced in Wales. It was sent to me early last week, and it still hasn't reached me. So, and now it's been more than a week. So, yeah. It was supposed to have come.
Yeah. Shall we get into it? Shall I try some? What do you want to do?
I think we should start by you trying some.
Imagine now if I... Oh my God, what is this? It tastes like this.
I really doubt it. I mean, okay, I can tell you a little bit about how it came about, actually, because I almost started making this mead. I started making this mead together with Sam, or got the idea for it. Sam from Afonmel, the company that produces them and have fermented them and everything. Actually, this was a long time ago. This was before the album even was finished, I think.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
Shall I show the label off? Well, so this is the Elderflower.
Yeah, so this is the feminine one, the Gunlathu or Gunlöðr, for those who don't know the Proto-Germanic version of her name. Yeah.
It smells good. I'm a big fan of elder and in any form, elderberry, elderflower.
Yeah.
It's all good to me. My wife hates elderflower, so she's going to hate this one.
So she can take the masculine one. It's a free country.
Just before we started recording, Bob from Afonmel.
Yeah.
Do you know Bob? Yeah.
I haven't met him yet, but I know who he is. Yeah.
He finished 2 bottles in a night, apparently.
Nice.
So rave review from Bob.
they are really, really happy about it. Yeah, it's really cool.
Ah, shit, mate.
That's just shit.
No, that's really good. I mean, like,
so please, full cards on the table. Before you do, it's embarrassing because I haven't tasted it. I know
whatever.
Never, because I had the idea. Okay. Sam and I were developing it together. Like the concept behind it, what was going to go in it, what did it have to represent, what did we want to end up, what kind of product did we want to end up with the end at the end of it. And then Sam, of course, went and did the actual boots on the ground work and actually made the mead. But so the idea is that one needs to be floral and sweet and but still with some oomph to it and so on. Yeah,
that does exactly that. Yeah, I don't know how strong it is, in case anyone's wondering. Yeah, 10.7%.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'll be honest, there's meaderies jumping up all over the place these days.
Yeah.
From the ones I've tasted, some of them are okay. I don't rate them. There's only a couple that I really rate. One of them would be Afonmel.
Yeah.
And the other one I've had on the podcast before was Rookery, which is in Scotland.
Yeah, I've heard about Rookery as well. Yeah.
Rookery is very good. And their flavour notes are very subtle between the different meads. So they're not too in your face.
Yeah.
Back to this one.
back to that. But I also just want to say that before you say, but of course, I've had lots of different Afonmel meads before. That's why I wanted to work with them. They're damn good, And they,
Yeah. So you knew Sam before you started the Nebala project properly?
No, it was kind of like happening at the same time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I saw their profile and so on, and I think they had the mead, I think, at some point, and
Heather
I
Mead
just
is divine.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really good. I've used it in supper clubs as well, and they have a blackberry mead which is damn good as well. Really, really good. Which is more tart and thick, but it's also sweet at the same time. So it's really good to use as if you want to make an aperitif and just top it up with a bit of champagne, just to have a little bit of a bubbly experience. But yeah, so then I just thought, it would so make sense to make a mead if we're doing this, and if we could make it with this whole feminine and a masculine version of a mead, and then to show the interconnection. And then Sam came up with a great idea. But then why don't we do it with the elderflower? Because there we have two products on one tree, so we can show that interconnection, and also something with the cycle of it, flowering first and then berry after, and life and death and the cycle of life and so on being represented in there. So that was the idea. And then of course it took a lot longer for us to actually finish it. So it was supposed to have come out a little bit after the album, but now it's year after.
Well, I think they age everything for minimum 2 years, don't they? It's like nothing comes out quickly.
We were going to actually do this as a young mead, but I'm really happy we didn't. I'm really happy we did. I'm really happy that it was aged. I think it's been aged for a little over a year, 2 years maybe. Yeah. Oh yeah,
I think it's normally 2 years. Yeah.
2 years. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
So it was Sam's idea to go down the elder route.
Yes, I mean that was what he suggested. This is what he suggested, and then we started thinking a little bit about how to balance the citrus instead of just using normal what do you call it, citron acid. We would use sea buckthorn acid instead, and things like that. And basically.
I mean, because there's a lot of folklore around elder. You're quite knowledgeable about foraging and things. Do you know much about elder?
Well, I mean, what I know is that the elder trees, for instance, were seen as they were kind of warding off evil spirits, and so people would plant them in front of their houses and in front of their doors. I know a lot
often to keep the devil away.
To keep the devil away. Yeah. I mean, that's probably a remnant from an older time, right? I would imagine.
Sometimes they're seen as witches, and people thought they were moving through the fields. They could actually almost move with their roots.
Oh, that one I haven't heard. That's an interesting one.
There's so many things. It's like one of the kind of bushes with the most sort of folklore.
Oh, but that I know. That I'm very well aware of that. It was a holy tree, and people would use it for making flutes as well, and that sort of thing. The elder was very, very special.
We use it to make. I don't know if I've got one here. Don't think I have. We make hollow tubes for like a bellows for blowing into the fire.
Ah, yeah.
Because the word elder does come from the Old English word for hearth, so it's all connected.
Oh, like fire elder, well. Like ill in Danish, and yeah.
And at one point, it was thought if you burned it, you'd see the devil.
You'd see the devil?
Which, funnily enough, I was thinking about this morning when I was thinking about the meads. Because I've often said to people, I've burned it, and it's not true.
The what, sorry?
But I've burned it before, and I've often said to people that it's not true. Like, you don't see the devil when you burn elder.
Oh, right, okay.
It's just like as a...
Oh, damn.
But... There is a, I don't know how you feel about paranormal and stuff, but there is an occasion I was telling someone about recently where I was burning some garden rubbish, hedge clippings and stuff, and I saw shadow.
Boris Johnson straight in the orange fire going.
Close. I saw a shadow run across the garden, but it disappeared halfway across the garden.
Okay, while you were burning something.
Which contained elder, and I never put the two things together until this morning.
Oh, Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I wish you had filmed it.
It was just like,
No.
you just see something run and you go, I thought it was a person at first, and the fuck, and then by the time I turned, it was gone.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So how do you think people would use it in that time? Like, would do you think people would then burn it in order to see the devil somehow, or to see a dark spirit? Or
I think it was just a cautionary thing: is don't burn the wood, as you'll see the devil. It's like, if you take a piece of the wood or the flowers or the berries, you're supposed to leave offerings to goddesses and spirits that live within the tree. So I think the devil thing maybe is just a warning. I mean, it's high in cyanide, so whether that was kind of a cautionary tale not to burn it in your house, if you like, because that would, I don't know if it would
make you sick or something
presumably
like that. Yeah, possibly. Yes.
I don't know. I'm speculating now, but
no, I mean, I the thing about your experience with the shadow and so on. You asked me how I am with the paranormal things. I mean, I've obviously had all kinds of experiences that I cannot explain. Totally, I think everyone has. I just think most people just can't deal with it or whatever, and just don't even want to entertain that it could be something that could be shaking their reality in any kind of way. Just can't deal with it.
Yeah,
I think everyone has those kind of experiences. I think they can't explain, or feeling of a presence or something like that. And of course, if you're a strict materialist, you'll just brush it off and say, well, it's just your mind playing tricks on you. But what do you mean it's just your mind playing tricks on you? How do you know? Well, what is it that you understand about the mind and reality that everyone else don't understand? I've always wondered that with materialists, right? It's like they make all these incredible claims. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just hallucinations. But just hallucination. What is a hallucination? What does that mean? Or it's just your mind not doing what it's supposed to. But how do you know what it's supposed to do? That thing. I think it's such a circular kind of thing. It just never really gets me anywhere. So I'd rather, when it comes to paranormal and those kind of experiences, I'd rather just go like, yes, that is an experience, and we should take that seriously. Not to say that, oh, I saw the devil, so now I know which sect we should all join. That's not the point. The point is just to work with these experiences and to allow them to be a part of your world without rejecting them, but also not maybe necessarily saying, oh, this is probably what it is. That's also a fallacy,
I mean, generally, I would say I am a skeptical person.
Yeah.
But then I've had these experiences. I've had things like sleep paralysis and stuff happen. So like I've had a fair share.
Right. Yeah. No. But I mean, it's good to be. It's good to be skeptic as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because a skeptic is also an inquisitive mind. I feel.
Yeah.
Because you're not a rejectic. You're a skeptic, right? It means that you don't go like, oh, when I burned the elder, I saw the devil. Hey, everyone, ding, 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 I saw the devil. That's not what you do. But you go like, whoa, that was an experience, and what does that mean? And I don't know. And as I say,
I've never pieced it as the two things together before today. Before, I've just said there was a shadow. I've told people about a shadow that ran across the garden, and it was only when I was thinking about the burning the elder and seeing the devil. I thought, well,
maybe you did see
something.
You definitely saw something, and who knows what that is? That's really fascinating. We got to do some experiments. I'm coming to the UK now, Craig, so I can come visit you and we can experiment with burning some elder and see what happens.
Come visit. We live near Avebury, so there's plenty to see and do around here.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. Have to
come. Right, we should go back to the mead, shouldn't we?
We should indeed. You should try the next one.
Yeah, I should. I'll finish off this. So I'll ask you a question. I'll finish this bit, and then we'll try the other one.
definitely.
Because they did write some serious questions this time.
You did, yeah.
So how do you think your mead range complements or enhances the listening experience of Nebala's music?
I think that depends on the quantity, doesn't it? That you imbibe. I think if you just sit and sip a little glass, I mean, yeah. I don't know, actually. I
was envisioning you in the music video that you filmed in Ukraine, but then that was like mushrooms or something, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know exactly what that is. We're not exactly being explicit about what's inside that concoction, but it's something potent.
So it wasn't this.
It wasn't this. You'd have to spike that with something, would you know. But which they did, fucking hell. I mean, beer and wine and everything like that was spiked with all kinds of strange things back in the day, right?
I'm just going to rinse my glass so that I don't contaminate the two flavors.
Do it.
You can carry on. My sink's just behind me. So it's not...
Okay, fantastic. No, what was I going to say?
How does it enhance Nebala's, or the listening experience, I guess, of Nebala? Because you did say before about you sort of created them almost at the same time, or the concept came about.
Yeah.
So I wondered whether they were connected in some way, like...
I mean,
should you drink 2 gallons of mead and then listen to the album? Or
I would have to try. It would be interesting to see if you could sort of like you start with the floral one, and then you go into the red one in the middle, maybe when it gets more aggressive and so on. Then you go over to the more masculine and aggressive one, and then maybe at the end you mix them both together and top it off with some champagne, and then you have the whole ecstatic part at the end.
Cocktails.
That's my sort of suggestion right here. I got to turn off this alarm. There's something alarm that's buzzing in the background. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
So and I think if you drink a whole bottle of either of those and just go onto the dance floor, I'm sure it'll enhance the experience in some kind of way. I'll have to make experiments with it myself. But of course, I mean, the whole idea is that the mead reflects the album in terms of when I was talking about earlier about making dishes that kind of fitted to some kind of story, or and so on and so forth. What hopefully that kind of amounts to is a really good product at the end, because you've kind of like you've had this vision of something, and that hopefully shines through in the product at the end, whether it's an album or whether it's a mead. So in that sense, they're connected because they are inspired by the same seedbed, if you will.
So I'll show off the bottle for the next one, because I did the first one, didn't I?
And this is the Voodoo Ridash, the ecstasy rider, which is what Odin becomes after he has slept with Gunnlod, by the way. So the whole idea, so very quickly, the story of the mead of poetry is Odin is retrieving the mead of poetry, which was created by the blood of Kvasir, the perfect being that the Vanya and Aesir made together after the Great War. And so it's supposed to be like, containing the cosmic creative force. That's what this mead is supposed to contain. And so what he does is it's gone through a whole journey, and I won't take you through the whole thing, but it ends up inside a mountain, guarded by this goddess Gunnlod, or this earth goddess, you could say. Gunnlod, and he then what Odin does is that he needs to get into the mountain, so he makes a tiny hole with some kind of drill, at the mouth of Rati. He bores into the mountain, and then he turns himself into a snake in order to get into the mountain, and then he lies with Gunnlod for 3 days and 3 nights, drinks all the mead, and then flies out of the mountain like an eagle, and then regurgitates the mead back onto the world. And that is an interesting imagery. I just when I heard that story the first time, I thought it was extremely interesting imagery, that whole thing about going into the underworld and then flying up like an eagle. Because if you see representations of the Kundalini rising, which is a yogic system where you channel energy from your groin area up through your crown chakra, the whole idea is to channel the sexual energy that comes from your groin area and channel that up through your whole body, and let that sort of be the driving force of the cosmic, releasing the cosmic creative force. And that's exactly the same imagery in this story, you know. And then of course there's a whole cycle of life and death also related in the story of Kvasir. So there's a lot in this story, a lot of stuff to draw inspiration from.
So I'm going to try this.
Yes,
this one. I've been holding off. I've been smelling it and thinking, no, I'll wait until.
what's the
story?
How does it smell?
It smells really strong of elderberries. Like,
yeah,
they've not held back on.
No.
Yeah,
there's a lot of elderberry in that one.
And I say I love elderberry. I make a lot of elderberry wines in the autumn normally. So, in fact, I've got my own demijohn just off camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from this year. That's got a while, yeah. But wow, that is very different to the first one.
Supposed to be.
It's almost more like almost like a port.
Oh yeah,
like
that's
really
what I was hoping for,
and deep in flavor. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's the first one's got a lot more sweetness to it.
Yeah.
And maybe if you went straight for this one, this might have some sweetness, but going from the elderflower to this one,
yeah. You should have had a little
knocking it back a little bit. Yeah,
you should have had a little piece of fermented ginger or something in between or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's more for me. That would be more of a sipper.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one, I think you might be.
You can chuck that
in the back.
This one's more of a.
It's stronger as well. It's 12.6, so
exactly,
it's a little bit stronger. But yeah, they're almost like chalk and cheese. They're so different in. Wow.
I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy to hear that. God damn it! It feels so weird that I don't have it here to taste it with you. It's just bloody Brexit. I have to blame it on Brexit. Blame it on something, you know.
I had another question, but I don't know, because you haven't tried it. It's probably not going to work really. It was more about how you would envision like pairing them with your past experience of being a chef.
Oh yeah,
like food pairing, but you can't do that because you haven't tried them. So it's
no. From what you're saying, you know, it sounds like. I mean, they'll obviously both go well with any kind of dessert, surely. You know, even the sipper one. And from what you're saying, it sounds like pretty straightforward that the elderberry one, if you wanted to serve that with a savory dish, it would be, you would have to go very dark red meat or very mushroomy or something earthy and
I was going to say red meats myself. Yeah,
that would make sense, right? And then when maybe the other one, I don't know if it would go well with fish, but probably more of a light kind of maybe vegetable dish or something like that, you know. Something where, but since it's very floral, I would say that one I would probably reserve that for a dessert, no matter what.
Yeah. So sorry, go on.
No, yeah, because it has that floral Moscato thing going on, right?
So I was going to ask you about the artwork itself and who did the artwork.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's very important. Yeah, this was done by.
Let's show them off again. Just whilst we're.
You can also go onto my Instagram and onto Sam's Instagram as well and see the actual pictures of them.
Yeah, because if someone's listening, this is pointless, but I am showing the bottles.
Yes, he's showing the bottles. I can explain a little bit about what's on them. They're both mountains. One of them is the colors are more sort of yellow and red, and that's the male one. And you can sort of see that that's Odin. You can see both his ravens there on the side. He's got his spear. So a lot of these attributes to Odin. And of course, the Elderberry is represented there as well in the artwork. And the Gunlothu one as well also has the Elderflower. It has a kind of a whirlwind showing. It's interesting with Gunlothu because her name actually means invitation to battle. So she's not a kind of she's not a pretty girl. She's quite a fierce lady. And you have snakes also on Gunlothu representing the underworld, which is where she's from. And it was made by Sara Bøgh. She has her Nykken illustration, Nykken, Nykken, Nykken Ilo on IG. Definitely go check her stuff out. She does more or less all the visuals for Nebala now and everything. She's really talented, and she knows this stuff as well. This is kind of her world. Really lucky to find a really good illustrator who also understands the material really well, and she lives and breathes all this. So definitely go check her stuff out, and I'm super happy with those labels. I think they're awesome, very different as well.
Yeah, but at the same time they go together as the pairing. Yeah,
exactly.
There are some tasting notes. I don't know if it's worth me reading them.
Well, yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. So on the Elderflower, it says a delicate floral mead with a soft and gentle palate, subtly elegant with a sweet and warming finish. And
would you say that fits pretty well?
That's what I said, wasn't it?
It was more or less what you said, wasn't it? Yeah, indeed.
And then this one says boldly fruity on the nose with hints of summer hedgerow, thick and luxurious with the sweetness of the honey balancing the tartness of the fruit. A sweet but dry berry finish.
Yeah, does it have that? That's what I was actually wanted to ask you about that. Does it have that tartiness? A little bit of
It's definitely as I say, it's less sweet than the other one. Yeah, it puts me quite in mind of a port or something. I think.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
There's a quote from Matthias on there as well. I don't know if you knew that.
There's a what?
A quote from Matthias.
Yeah. That's also on the album. Which talks about the love of Gunlothu and Wodan.
Yes, it says, we are only human. We desire the love and lust of other humans. We are each other's companions. And when we have the desire of being someone's companion fulfilled, we attain a sense of worldly bliss that cannot be replaced by any other kind of spirit. Woden and Gunlothu fulfilled that role for one another in ancient times. Their desire ran as deep as the roots of the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's
actually the same thing on that.
Yeah. So it's all about that. It's and the, like you said, also the labels are mirrored in each other.
Yeah.
But they're also quite different. So yeah, they're mirrors of each other and different at the same time. And exactly. Yeah, I'm really happy that we put that quote on there because that's what the album is about as well. I just watched yesterday. I was watching with my daughter and with Nana. We were watching his Dark Materials. Do you know that series?
I've not seen it, but I know it.
Do you know the books? Maybe.
No, not well enough to.
His Dark Materials really is brilliant. It's super brilliant. It's extremely esoteric and mythological, spiritual, all these different things.
I think I heard the author on a podcast a couple of weeks back, actually.
Philip Pullman. I'm
sure he was on something I listened to recently.
He's cool. Like he's cool to he's got a lot of cool ideas. But there was it's not to spoil the whole thing, but let's just say that the fact that two people fall in love saves the world in a way, or is what the world needs in order to restore itself. And I love that idea, because the world can be such a absolutely almost intangible thing, right? I mean, just sometimes it'll strike me when I'm sitting down and I'm looking around and I'm going like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I'm here, I'm in this world, I can touch things, I love, and I do all these things, and I care for things, and I hate other things. And why do I do all these things? Because being alive is such a insane mystery, right? And you can get so bogged down in all the complexities of it all and forget that, my God, just lying in the arms of someone you love, it's what else is there, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Remember those things. So it's trying to get back to basics here. And that's why we made a mead. And that's why we made music. Yeah. And that's why we do anything in life, really, right? So
these meads are now on sale, I think, right?
Yes, they are. They are on the Afonmel website, and you can also get them from Horns of Odin. If
we'll do the whole, there's links underneath thing.
Yeah.
I'll pop some links under.
Pop some links, please. Click on the link, yeah.
Yeah.
Please do, mate.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the questions that I ask every guest?
Yes, please do.
I just look at the time and I realise it's getting on a bit.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
We've got 7 questions that I ask every guest. The first one is, if you had an unlimited budget, what would be your dream project?
Yeah, so that's the one, right? That I was looking at that and I was like, oh God, because it's just one of those like, oh, I should just tell about my dream project. But then you're saying the whole thing with an unlimited budget, and then I go like, if I had an unlimited budget, I probably wouldn't know what to do. I think limitations are extremely important for any kind of project. And in some sense, I love what I do. I love making music, and I love steeping myself into research and then coming up with creative projects on the basis of that. So if I can keep doing that for the rest of my life and live a decent life, oh my God, then I am living the dream. So that's my answer.
Put my teeth in. I was going to say sustainability is your dream then. You want to be able to sustain what you're doing.
Yeah. That's sustainability. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I would say something like that. Yeah. That's the best way I can answer that question.
So next question is, could you survive on a Viking age diet?
Of course I could, technically, obviously. I mean, the Vikings did, so I could. Would I be happy? I don't know. Because I know if I was living in the Viking age, I'm sure it would be fine, right? But because I know all the flavors and so on that we are able to produce today, which you did not produce that back then, at least not from what we know. It would probably be a bit sad if you go back to a Viking age diet. Even though I'm sure they made some kick-ass savory porridges and stuff like that. I'm sure they, threw some salted meat in there and that kind of stuff. And actually, when we did the promotion for the Northmen, I went on a big morning show in Denmark and promoted the film. And there was a guy who has a company called something as charming as Grød. Try to pronounce that. It's Danish for porridge. It basically just means porridge. His whole chain of restaurants is just called porridge. So his whole theme is that it's all porridge based. And we designed a Viking porridge together, which was super delicious. Lots of cheese in there, lots of salted meats and stuff like that. And root vegetables and that kind of thing. So I'm sure you could make a nice porridge in the Viking age. This is my best way of answering that question.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
So, is there any food you'd miss if you were living on a Viking Age diet?
Oh God, I would miss. It's so weird when people look at me. They go like, "Pizza? What?" But pizza is my first culinary love. Like that was the first time I was like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" You know, it's like ages ago. So I always return to that. I just love pizza. I love a good pizza, a really nice sourdough pizza with like all the like a really good Italian ham and this kind of stuff. Like it's my God, it's so good.
It's funny because I think that's come up before, and I've got a feeling it was Dan.
Oh God, that's not good. That's not.
I'm fairly sure pizza definitely came up because he mentioned ham and pineapple in some context, but I don't know if it's for this question or another one.
Yeah, I was told by an Italian interviewer not so long ago to we'll stop the interview. She said, like, what is your most unpopular opinion? I said, I think actually pineapple on pizza can be really good. If it's done really well, it can actually be super good. Like, imagine that, like a really good pineapple, fresh, ripe, pineapple, and you cut it out. Maybe you marinate it in some chili oil and some stuff, and then you put it on with some really good ham and so on. What's not to like?
It's fine, yeah. My daughter likes it, so we would
salt and sweet mixed together with some umami. That'll be good.
Yeah,
for sure.
So pizza was the answer to that one, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, lots of other things, but I have to make some kind of answer, right? So lots of other things I would.
So, what's the weirdest thing in your kitchen?
Some people probably would say it's Indian pickles. I think people don't like that necessarily. I really am a big sucker for Danish liver pate.
Mm-hmm.
It's also something that I don't think people like that very much. It's very stinky and that kind of stuff. I really like it. Yeah. And then I also really like at Christmas time, I like this thing called we call it sylte. It's basically the head of a pig that's been boiled, and then you take off all the flesh, and then you make it into some kind of it's not a very interesting sausage actually, but it's kind of not a sausage, but it's like a meat cake, cold cut, you could say. It's got some spices.
So we would call that head cheese.
Head cheese. Yeah,
that's probably what it's called in English. Head cheese. Yeah.
Because you cook it together.
Because it's all like the gelatin and stuff boiled down, and then it sets like a jelly with all the bits of meat in it. Yeah. Yeah, we call that head cheese.
Head cheese. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think in German they call it just Schweinkopf, which just means the head of a pig. And so so this gets funny. So like at Christmas time, I like that because we've had a tradition in my family to have that. You have it on a piece of rye bread with a very strong mustard and then pickled beetroot. It's actually quite delicious. But then we have a tradition around Christmas time that we have this rice porridge, and then we put a whole almond inside the rice porridge, and the one who gets that whole almond then wins a prize on Christmas. Like usually it's a thing that people get, so it's like a prize that you get the whole almond. So with the head cheese, the joke is that the one who gets the tooth gets
wow.
So
it's funny that different cultures do that, because you have Christmas pudding in England. I think there's a coin that's put into the pudding.
Oh, really? A coin?
Yeah, in like New Orleans, they do the king cake where they put a plastic baby.
That's disgusting.
It's just interesting that these different cultures have a version of putting a choking hazard in their food.
Yeah, but an almond, at least it's edible and you can chew it. A coin, you can destroy your tooth and
choke to death. Yeah.
Oh God.
It's the plastic baby as well from New Orleans.
Plastic baby is also weird.
Yeah.
For what reason? What do you win? Do you win something if you get the plastic
I think
baby?
you win something if you get it. I don't know. I think they do it for Mardi Gras.
Okay, yeah. What
But
would you
I
win
couldn't tell you. I
then?
don't know enough to know what you win, but I know it's a thing.
Oh, it'd be cool to find out. What do you win at Mardi Gras when you get the plastic baby? Do you get a? I don't know. That's cool, man. Oh god, yeah. Okay,
Yeah. All right.
free gumbo for the rest of the year.
You get free dental treatment.
Yes. After you crack your tooth on the baby. Yeah. Okay, go on.
Where are we? What's the worst food or drink you've ever had?
Worst. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is actually the first time I went to India. We got hungry at night, Nen and I, and we went out to see if we could find a restaurant. That time, restaurants were not allowed to be open until very late, but then some did. They'd be like everything would be drawn, but you would know that place. If you go and you knock on the door, they'll open the door for you. You can go in and eat at any time of night, you know. And then I remember Nena introduced me to something called jaljeera, which is a drink. It's a kind of a lemonade kind of thing, but it's got a lot of spices in it, especially the kind of spice they call chaat masala. And very heavy on the amchur. And amchur is a dry powder made from unripe mangoes. It's get very tarty. And then it's got a lot of what you call this black salt, kala namak, they call it, which is a very sulfuric salt. And then all these spices inside this drink. I actually like it today. I wouldn't say that I would ever go in and really order a jaljeera, but I can drink it and actually enjoy it. It would be my first choice, but I remember the first time I got that, and I felt it smelled like piss, like literally smelled like some old guy's sulfuric, like an old drunkard morning piss. That's what I felt it smelled like, and I tasted it. I felt it taste the same. I was like, this is fucking disgusting. And then I was like, what? Oi! Like, bathe me in it, you know, like take a swim in jaljeera. You know, she just loved it so much. But that Indian pickle has a bit of that kind of thing as well, because of that kala namak, the chaat masala is there as well, that sulfuric thing. But today, you know, if I get a Riesling, which smells a little bit like petroleum, I love it, you know. So it's like your palate changes, of course, with time. But that was definitely one of the most disgusting things. And I had also something in Norway. What the fuck was that? This is hands down the most disgusting thing I had. It wasn't a Norwegian thing. It's called skate. It's Icelandic dish. Have you tried that? It's basically the wing of what you call it? The one that killed Steve Irving.
Stingray?
Stingray, yeah. It's stingray.
Okay.
It's stingray, and it's also one of those things that they fermented in some kind of weird way, and then they've made a kind of a stew out of it, which is so like ammonia, like just insane. Like it smells so disgusting. And then you have it with what do you call it? With sheep's fat, rendered sheep's fat. Yeah. With potatoes and so on. I mean, I don't get it. Like, poor Icelandic people, like they really had to do a lot of shit to survive back then. Like, yeah. Anyways, that was really disgusting.
What's the most memorable meal you've ever had?
It's a few different ones, I would say. It's difficult to pick one. One of them definitely was in south of France, at a place called it was close to Camargue. It was a 2-star Michelin restaurant that we were invited to go to, and it was a lunch. So we had a 4-course meal, and the last thing before the dessert, the main course was just a leg of lamb. There was nothing with it, no potatoes, no nothing, just the leg of lamb they brought in. They had done something unbelievable to that leg of lamb. It was just, I don't know exactly. I can't remember if they told me what they had done, but it was so good. Like, it was just so rich and, incredible leg of lamb. And actually another leg of lamb that I had in Delhi at a Kashmiri restaurant. So it was a special Kashmiri style leg of lamb, which was also absolutely insane. I want to say another really special meal I had was our first year anniversary. We went to a place in, I forgot the name of it, unfortunately, but it's the only Michelin restaurant in Venice. And we were so lucky we got that one table that they had. They had one table like this, which was on a balcony over the canals with like flowers around it and so on. And we had a strawberry gazpacho there, which was unbelievable as well. I remember that one, and I remember the risotto was incredible as well. It was like classic Italian food, but done like extremely well. Yeah, that was really amazing. Awesome. I could probably find 4 more. Yeah, I've eaten a lot.
It's hard to just pick one of anything, isn't it?
Really difficult. Yeah, really difficult. Yeah. I mean, I've had some insane food in London as well, I have to say. Like, there are some incredible places in London. It's really good. There's this one Spanish tapas place, which I forget the name of right now, unfortunately. They have many different restaurants, but they have a few flagship restaurants as well, which is incredible. Totally, like, you just go in and you sit on a bar, and then they come with your food and your wine and so on. And it's very communal in that setup. Yeah. It's not so. Yeah. I actually don't like that so much. Like, I wish more restaurants would focus more on the communal aspects of eating together, and make it more like long tables and that kind of thing. So that when you go out for a restaurant, you actually have to interact with people around you.
Yeah, it is very much.
I'm not saying experience. Yeah, I'm not saying all restaurants should be like that. I like also the idea of that curated experience just for you and your partner or little group that you're with. I do like that, because it's kind of a world that you go into. But I think there should be more sort of communal eateries. Like, I think that should be more of a thing, where people go out and don't just go out to eat, but also go out to meet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, as a social element. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, I mean, there is a thing as well, isn't there, where they've done studies on people eating together, and when people eat together, they tend to make future plans whilst they're eating, and so actually just having that communal thing leads to more socializing and more. It does. I'm going to play golf tomorrow. Do you want to come? Type.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Einar Selvik talks a lot about that we should sing more together as well, right? Like, people should sing more. This is one of my things that I really, really have been for many, many years very like, this is actually when you asked me about the dream project earlier as well. If I could make some projects that would make people sing more, and not just have me and whatever guys I'm bringing with me stand on stage and perform for people, but if I could make more kind of events like that, which would even be set up like live shows or whatever, but which would be focused on having people sing. Like, people don't just come to listen, but they also come to partake, and they come to sing as well. There was a way of doing that somehow and bringing that back into the world. That would be amazing, because I see what it does to people. When we sit around fires and people just sing together, oh my God, there's nothing better.
Churches do it.
Yeah, but it's so solemn, it's so it can be beautiful. Don't get me wrong. My uncle is one of the world's best church musicians, if you want to call it like that. He's an organ player and choir conductor, and I actually think that the only place that the church is still sacred when you go to church today, whatever church it is when the music comes on. That's a part of the church that still has some sacredness to it. But the rest of it is just a lot of old rusty keys that don't open any doors anymore, if you ask me. But but that.
Did you see the band? Did you see the band Mio? They played at Midgardblot.
No, unfortunately, I heard a lot about them. I missed them, unfortunately. They seemed cool.
Yeah, they did a thing. My daughter is a big fan of theirs since seeing them.
Nice.
And they did a kind of, I was going to say a call and response. It wasn't really, but they kind of gave you the lyrics up front and then said, when we get to this bit, everyone needs to sing along. So yeah, there are ways to kind of incorporate small amounts.
We did it as well in whatever small way we could this year. We did it as well. In the Gilder Hall, we had everyone chant Om. We did it.
Of course you did. I forgot about that. Yeah.
We did a rendition of an Indian mantra there. So we had that, and we did that in Germany as well, which also was fairly successful as well. Actually, it's pretty cool. And we want to do more of that. I want to do more of that. I also want to make events that are solely designed for people to come and sing. My dad does that actually in his local communities, and that of course is like, his age bracket and so on mostly. It's plus minus 10 years or whatever, but they come and they sing Beatles and all the songs that they remember from their time, and then he puts all the music up on a big screen and then people can follow along. But
I think he has a YouTube channel that I stumbled across.
My dad, I'm sure he does.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
I think I was looking. I'd searched for your sister or something, and a YouTube video came up of I think you and her singing
Both Sides Now
or something in
a church.
Yeah.
Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell. Yeah, we sang that for our grandmother. She had an anniversary in a church. Our grandmother was priest. Our grandfather as well grew up in a family filled with Christianity, not in any bad way or anything like that. Very, very sober, but for sure.
So there's one more question I haven't asked you yet.
Go for it.
So when you die, your relatives are preparing your grave goods. What food or drink are you taking to the feast in Valhalla?
Oh yeah, this was the one. I mean, they have to put pizza down there, obviously. Some really good pizza. I would love some.
Salmon pineapple?
Totally. No. No, maybe not that. Maybe
do you want to share a grave with Dan at this point? Or is
it's beginning to sound like that, doesn't it?
I think that was his answer. I think I said it and he just out of nowhere just went pizza.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've ever shared a pizza with Dan. It'll happen now, I'm sure. Then can share our love for pizza. No, I love that guy. Of course, Dan said that. Of course, he did. No, so it'd be that. It would be I think it would be maybe. I think it would be a sour beer from Cantillon in Belgium. Any of their sour beers would do. Whatever you can get a hold of. It's quite difficult to get a hold of it. It's a very small batch. But so that, and then a really nice Georgian orange wine, maybe. Those two things in terms of drink. And I think something like that. Some mango. I fucking love mango. Mango. A really nice Indian ripe mango would be nice as well. Yeah. I could go on. It'll be filled. It'll be filled with shit. Like,
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been a lot of fun having you on the podcast. We've gone way longer than I was supposed to keep you. So
yeah, well,
appreciate your time.
It's okay. Now I pushed some things around now. Anyway, so yeah, it's all good.
Do you want to give yourself a plug where people can find you on social media, website. We did plug the mead, but you can plug it again because that's mainly what you're here for.
Definitely. Well, it's not the only thing I'm here for, but
but it's one of the reasons.
It's definitely one of the reasons. Yeah. The mead, you can find that on Afonmel. Just type in Afonmel and it'll come up. Afonmel. That's the meadery that makes it. Or you could go on to Horns of Odin at Horns of Odin on Instagram, and you can buy it from his shop as well.
Are they individual or they're not a set? Are they? It's just you can buy one or the other.
Yeah, you can buy one or the other. Yeah. I don't think they Afonmel might have set up a set. I don't know how they do it. They might have.
Yeah.
And then of course my Instagram handle is at Nebala Music. So Instagram is the best place to follow Nebala for sure, and YouTube of course is also at Nebala Music. So go there and check out the videos and the live videos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. I highly recommend if anyone hasn't listened to Nebala yet, then
thank you,
definitely
Greg.
One of the best. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed the show and want to hear more, remember to like and subscribe and give the show a rating. You can also help keep the show going by becoming a Patreon, where you'll get early access to all episodes. Or check out my range of merch on my store. Links are in the episode description. Thanks for watching.